Hello, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. This is the Mental Health Mondays interview edition. Typically a call-in show discussing your struggles and celebrating your life triumphs. The interview episodes have a very special guest sit down with us to discuss mental health, their history with it, and opinions of the like. Of course, to preface, if you like what you hear, head on over to patreon.com/DyllonKG, where just for a few dollars, you can help keep the lights on, invest in future episodes, future tech upgrades for these, become part of our history, and also get some pretty cool rewards, some early accesses, some physical goodies, etc. But today, we got all that out of the way. We are sitting down with a man who you may not know. A lot of you do know him, but this is for podcast listeners. But you should know him. His name is Dan. And I'm going to allow him to describe himself. I'm gonna allow him to take that reign. Dan,
oh Lord.
Dan, yeah. What do you do? What are you about? Give us the whole deal.
Man. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me here, brother. It's super. It is always a pleasure to be in your presence, virtually or otherwise.
Here it is. The tears are starting.
I am very, very honored to be a part of this and just to be amongst such wonderful people like yourself and your community.
Yeah.
Thank you. I do not take this for granted. So,
I'm glad.
Yeah, my name's Dan, and I am one half of the dynamic duo that streams for the nonprofit organization called HeartSupport. My best bud Casers and I, we stream across 4 channels here on Twitch, and one of them being the main channel, which is like the flagship HeartSupport, and you can go to heartsupport.com to learn all about that organization. I know a lot of people here already know of that because of you and what you do and the way you contribute to that organization, which is just amazing. But we have a video game channel, a gaming channel, variety gaming called the Savage Patch Kids. Casey, who's actually streaming right now under Casey Screams Back, which is a metalcore screaming stream / hilarity and randomness, life encouragement, productivity tips stream.
Yes.
And then my stream, which is art at Dan Makes His Mark. We do encouragement, collaborations with other creators, and generally just a charity stream to sell and create things to encourage people and to get HeartSupport some money. So
yeah,
that's pretty much what it's about. But I mean, all those channels are kind of under the banner of HeartSupport organization, creating just safe places for people to open up, giving resources, building relationships, connections, doing life with people, and just establishing truth and unconditional love in people's hearts when it may be lacking there.
Yeah, I think well said. It's almost like somebody's asked you what you do before. Well said. Yeah, our relationship has been a year, like well over a year and a half now.
I think a year and a half. I think we're coming up on a year and a half in the fall of this year.
It's been a pretty wild ride for all parties involved. But HeartSupport is HeartSupport's how I know you, and I think. Well, specifically on Twitch, it's so interesting because HeartSupport, and I'll let you tell that a little bit more, but HeartSupport definitely started as a movement in the music scene. And I would love to give you the platform to kind of talk about, this is an unofficial question. We're already starting out strong. But HeartSupport is obviously rooted in the music scene with metalcore, Vans Warped Tour. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what kind of how that started and the lineage of that, in case people don't really know the roots? I think the grassroots nature of the organization is so important to what you guys do.
Yeah. So HeartSupport, its founder is a man named Jake Lures, who is the front man for the 2-time Grammy-nominated metal band August Burns Red, and so this guy in his career gets the privilege and pleasure to encounter a lot of people through his platform, through being on stage, creating music, being a full-time touring musician in a fairly respected band, doing what he does. He talks to a lot of people, and so you know, much like Twitch, you know, community engagement is the key to being successful, you know, however you want to define that. But like, you want to be relevant in people's lives, and the best way to do that is to have some kind of connection with them. And so he would meet with these fans and people that would come and speak to him after a show, you know, over at the merch table, and hang out while another band is playing or whatever, and get to have these one-on-one connections with people. And during the course of those moments, they'd be talking, and more often than not, he would hear about people's struggles, and the reason that they overcame those struggles was because of the music that him and his band put out. And so he would hear stories night after night of people coming to the merch table and say, "Listen, I was gonna kill myself. I was gonna overdose on heroin or whatever, and I listened to your song Composure, and I'd be dead if it wasn't for you and your music." And you know, just kind of soak in the gravity of like that state. You know, and clearly there's a need for people to share these stories about their struggles or whatever. And his mind was like at a merch table in a crowded club room where there's another metal band playing over there.
Yeah, and he's like, hello, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the place to have like a real one-on-one, heart-to-heart conversation, you know? So like, how can I make a place where these kinds of connections can be made, but in a way that celebrates, you know, their individuality, their story, also respecting their privacy, making anonymity a priority. And Jake is a Christian guy, and so he was the story goes, he was laying on the roof of a house of blues praying, and was given the idea, the thought of creating this organization, creating it as specifically an online platform, an online community.
Yeah.
And has grown through the years and iterations into HeartSupport. And so its roots has always been in music, just from the fact that its founder is so rooted into that scene specifically. But in the last, you know, probably 3-4 years, probably since we started streaming on Twitch, it has just like gone into so many other avenues. And I think that really speaks to, you know, the unbiased effect that is mental health. Because you know what, these kinds of issues, they don't care what kind of music you listen to.
Yep.
They don't care what color your skin is or how much money you have or any of those other conditions. 100%. Human beings are affected by this. So if you're a streamer, or if you are a professional baseball player, or you're a roofer or whatever, like you are going to, you're still in the line, you know, the sights of these kinds of struggles. So why should we just say like, oh, we're just going to be involved in music? Because we would just intrinsically be segregating ourselves from the potential of impacting more lives. And so music is our root, but it is not the fence. You know what I mean? Yeah. It doesn't keep us in one place. It's just the way, the kind of the creative vehicle in which we have been launched into the world. So we're just kind of using the inertia and the momentum that Jake just has as a person, and also his band, you know, and his presence and just the respect he has in that scene as a launching place to be more influential, and hopefully our heart is to reach more people with a message of unconditional love and hope and resources to help them get that in their life.
Yeah, and it's always like I've obviously heard the story before. I was, you know, at the gala and everything, and it always is so, it's always so interesting to me how when somebody is quote unquote successful in a variety of like surface level ways, or you know, when we vie to see somebody as that way, but it's always so interesting to me when somebody says like that's not enough. Like let's go, like let's do more. Like let's actually like let's. There's something here. Let's like keep pulling on like the cloth and the clowns like in their arm, and you know, it just keeps coming and coming and coming out.
Oh yeah.
It's so interesting because it, you know, obviously he was being reached out to, and it was. Yeah, it could have just been like, oh, this is pretty neat. But like to him, he was like, wait, like there's something here. And obviously as the internet has like exploded into like what it is today, that conversation is, I think, more necessary than ever. And I think when he started this organization, it started when it did for like whatever like reason you want to call it, like divine intervention, universal energy. I think starting it when it started was so vital, and so like, you know, shout out to Jake. I don't, if you remember me, it's because of this stuff, this hair. So I know personally for me, HeartSupport and being involved in HeartSupport, you approached me, and in my infancy of knowing what I was doing regarding like mental health conversation, and you were like, hey man, like come be part of this thing. And that's a story for another time about how I got involved. But how did you get involved? Like, at what point did you step into the arena, or were you approached? Or I think I've heard that story, but I would love to hear it again. And I think a lot of people need to know a little bit more about you and like where you came from, because you do a lot for the organization. You do a ton. So he blushes a little bit, but it's true. I've seen him work at festivals. It's wild.
So my start with the organization really came through, I guess, through partnering with Casey in our professional career. But I believe that my awareness for some of the things and some of the struggles that people come to HeartSupport with have shown me just in moments of reflection and looking back in my life. There's things that I'm doing now that were because of decisions and circumstances that happened when I was like 3 years old. And so I am certain that my life and the way it has been cultivated and crafted, and the experiences and gifts that I've been given, and the people's lives who I've just had the privilege of being a part of, including hardship and stuff. I was made for this.
Yeah. Let's go.
And, I just don't know how to explain it any other way. But as far as like directly getting involved into the organization, and to be unleashed into in it, was probably around 2012 or so. 2011, winter 2011. No, earlier than that. Definitely earlier than that. I'm horrible with time, by the way. It is. I'm not good with
9 years, 10 years. It's all a blur now. It's just.
So, yeah, and then I know you know this, but like when you become a parent, that like a lot of stuff
time?
Just goes away. But so long story short, Casey and I worked on a reality TV show for a long time, trying to get that up off the ground. And we're both video nerds. We're both passionate about people. We're both passionate about creativity and making things. We're just really excited about making stuff.
Yes, it's clear.
And I was actually interning for him at this production company that I was referred to because my teacher, and I quote, was like, there's this guy that went through the same program when I was in college, and was like, I think you guys would get along real well. You have similar senses of humor. And I remember going, all right, cool, I'll bite.
Sure. Yeah.
And she gave me an address, and she was like, here, go here and talk to Casey. Like, okay, cool. So I remember walking into this place. It's an auto body shop, and there was the back of this auto body shop had been turned into an editing suite, and
cool. Okay.
and it was like, I mean, ghetto, way ghetto, like stuff on milk crates.
Ooh,
and
there we go.
I mean, yeah, it was rough. Just the desk was just like 2x4s and some plywood. I mean, it was crazy. And this, like, long haired emo kid comes rolling out, and he's like, hey, are you Dan? I'm like, hey, are you Casey? And he's like, yeah, cool, let's go talk. And we just hit it off from there. And there's there was just a season there where we worked so hard on getting this TV show going, because we both knew that someday it would be seen by the right eyes, in the right circumstances, where it would take off.
Right.
We had like that passion and that hope to like see this fulfilled.
Right.
And so it was years of just like working really long hours, like not getting paid. I'm doing all this for credit.
Right.
And just like cutting our teeth on editing software, and like, how do you make motion graphics? I don't know. Let's look it up and we'll figure it out. And we just like, we tried together. We screwed up together. We just failed. We pulled ourselves out of the fires together. Like that camaraderie was like forged in a lot of just effort,
and lots of fires too. Yeah.
And lots of fire. Yeah, man. And so it was just like, let's just do this thing. And then we started developing a team, and it eventually got picked up by the Discovery Channel, and just became like an internationally syndicated show. Cool. Which I think now is going into like its 12th season or something crazy like that. So we started literally like with nothing, and it moved up to like having our own building, and I was the lead editor for that show for a number of years. He was doing all the color correction and the graphics, and we had like a team of other editors that like worked under us, and we were part of like making this thing go. Whoa. And it was so cool.
That is so cool. Gosh.
But ultimately we kind of just felt this kind of like silent conviction of, this is really awesome, but it's not doing anything for people. Like, it's just, it is such a cool thing, but is it really changing lives?
Yeah.
Because Casey and I are we're both Christians, and we believe that people are important because God made them, and we should be loving people with everything we do, right?
100%.
And even though we were building relationships, we're making awesome friendships. I mean, there's people that I met at that business that I know I will be friends with for the rest of my life. It's not like relationships weren't being made there, but there wasn't the level of impact that we felt we could bring to something.
Right.
And that just literally just like kept us up at night. Like, we both had this like kind of, it was like the elephant, the mental elephant in the room that just like wouldn't leave. And so we had some long conversations that were full of all kinds of, all different kinds of emotions. Like, do we really want to leave this good thing that we've kind of built up, or helped to build? We can't take credit for this, but we were definitely part of it.
Oh, yeah.
And really, we were just like, we need to start looking for something else. Around that time, Casey started throwing around this idea of starting her own production company and starting her own business. And so, like, do we want to slingshot ourselves into the video production entrepreneurial world, just on literally
a thing,
an actual prayer, living on an actual prayer, Bon Jovi style, right?
Yeah.
And and we said yes, and so we really did kind of step out in faith and started our own company. And through that, we met HeartSupport strictly, I mean, not by accident, because I don't believe in accidents or circumstance or anything like that. But we were shown HeartSupport at Warped Tour. We took a bunch of kids from our youth group, and our parents were their parents were just like, yeah, you guys look moderately safe. We'll just, hey, bring back the kids in more than one piece. We'll be fine. All right. And like, okay, cool. Here's our liabilities. You just sign that, please, to make sure we don't get sued if anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Take all the precautions.
And so we started talking to I'm joking, by the way, we didn't have to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
But and we started talking to some organizations there about like maybe helping them out, and because we felt like we had a lot of video production knowledge and experience to bring to an organization to help do some good for people. And so we ended up talking to another organization that works at Warped Tour very closely, called I Am Second, and chatted with them, and we're like, hey, we do video nerd stuff and we love people, can we help you? And they were like, thanks for asking, you guys seem sweet. But
the easy letdown.
They have like a multi-million-dollar production company that does all their stuff. That's incredible. I highly recommend people check that out if you want to just hear some cool testimonies and stories about faith and stuff. And they're like, but you know who might need your help is HeartSupport. And we were like, what's a HeartSupport? And so we actually did not go to their tent that year at Warped Tour. We ended up just emailing the organization afterwards. And Casey, when he went home and looked at the website and saw that what this organization was doing was so closely aligned with what he had tried to do for years in his past, which is a whole part of Casey's story that I'll just let him share.
Yeah, because he's going to be on here.
But like seeing the incredible, like, just like, twines of string, like slowly becoming a rope. And like, becoming together to form like a stronger thing through my experience and Casey's experience, and hearing that from like the other members of the team. That is just like, it's so obvious that we were supposed to be doing this for you guys, but you just don't know it yet. We relentlessly emailed them. We lovingly bothered them for weeks. And they were just like, okay, shut up. Here's some footage. Make it an interview. Please stop emailing us. And so we turned it around in like 3 hours. We're like, okay, here's a bunch of interviews. I mean, it was like multiple interviews, and we just burned on it. We're like, yeah, we can do this. Okay, do you have any more? Like, do you have more? Like, we were just thirsty for it.
Right, exactly.
And they were like, okay, you're for real. Cool.
You're also good, yeah.
Let's talk. We're having our strategic meeting later on in the fall. They had actually offered a position to Casey. He wrote his own position, like wrote his own like job description and stuff.
That's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, which is pretty rad. Yeah. And then he was just like, listen, you guys, you just need to meet Dan. And I'm freaking out, like, you are gonna screw this up, dude. Like, they don't. They hired you, not me. What are you doing? And he's just like, shut up, Dan. When they meet you, they'll understand. Right. And I'm like, okay. And I just trusted that he was gonna do the right thing. And so he said, you hired Casey, but you get a free Danjo. It's a 2-for-1 deal. You're welcome ahead of time. And we met the rest of the team, and we've literally just been gung ho from there ever since. Going on Warped Tour, interviewing artists, talking to people about struggles and sharing stories and building community. And that led to Twitch. And that's a whole nother thing we can get into if you want to.
We will.
That's my that's my integration into the organization.
Yeah, yeah. I think I actually, yeah, I see a lot of people in chat that are like, "Yo, this story is so good," and then they're like, "Wait, I've never heard all of this story. What happened? This is so much more." So it's that's really cool. Actually, yeah, and there's so much of that I didn't know. I just saw the little, I knew the little bits and pieces about the direct relation to HeartSupport, but like the Discovery Channel stuff, I was talking to somebody who's famous. So you got tied into HeartSupport, and it was clearly something that you guys were passionate about, just helping people, which is like, that hits me in a very special spot, because I know personally my journey on Twitch and with content creation was like, I was just playing video games and having like conversations when people wanted them, which felt so passive that it also very much bothered me. It was like, we're doing something, but like, let's do something more pointed and intentional. But I was able to tackle it from a place of like, I was also able to be on, and not that you can't, and we're going to parlay that into the next question, but for me, I was able to take and explore myself alongside the exploration of other people, and go like, that's an interesting thought. I too struggle with that. Why is that? And go through my own anxiety, my own suicide, my own, depression and things like that. But what is, and if you're willing to disclose as much or as little as possible, what is your tie to mental health specifically? Was that just inherently like HeartSupport was just helping people in that way, and so you're like, yeah, okay? Or was there something specifically that really pulled you in, and if there's anything specific in your past that made it a poignant option to want to dive into?
Yeah.
And feel free to step over any landmines. You don't have to spill your guts here.
Nope. I'm gonna roll on the grenade for like Captain America style.
Yeah. Oof. All right. Relative. I like it.
So I personally have not struggled with things like some of the things that we typically engage in conversation with in the community at HeartSupport. Right. I don't necessarily struggle with anxiety. I've had anxious moments.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
But that is not something that plagues me to a physically debilitating level. And same with depression. I've had really, really low, tough moments in my life, but I haven't ever got to the point where it's like, is this ever going to end? And then like, and it asks that question, like, does this like fog go away after a while? I have never been that. And I am like, so grateful, like so crazy grateful that, that is not, that isn't a part of my story, but there are other parts of my story that I have been, things that have happened in my life that I have been gifted and allowed to endure and have a part of my story so that I can relate to others. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I mean, life is like that sometimes, it's, it's something that it's either like this low hum that is like, man, do I have something in my ear? Like, did I go swimming and it's just like, is my hearing weird now? Does it ever go away? And then there's sometimes where it's like, I'm gasping for air because I'm underwater and I'm drowning.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I've had more moments where I have had big impactful things where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm drowning. And not so much things that have just been struggles that have been like a constant in my life. Okay. I'm very open about that because I don't want to just put on the facade of just like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're going through, because I would be a liar if I said I was, or if I had. And I'm not about to be that to people. I haven't even met yet, but I love,
Right.
And so the connections that I have to people as someone who
who is incredibly just empathetic.
Mhm.
I have a big dumb heart that only
Right.
only knows how to love people at full volume, you know.
Right.
Um, and so that, yeah, there's been some things in my life that that have brought me to points where I can just relate to how a person feels without having gone through the
The
exact
exact.
circumstances of I went through months and months and months of depression, or
Right.
I harmed myself. But like, I've definitely felt the feelings that those people have felt to get to where they are at. Right.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I haven't hurt myself, but I've certainly wanted to punish myself, or I've put
Absolutely.
myself in the mindset of like, I deserve this.
Right.
I've definitely been there with those things. So
Just different
I
outcomes.
feel I feel like that I've been given opportunities to, in just different ways, to build bridges of relatability with people in our community. So, my parents split up when I was young due to my father's alcoholism, and my dad has never been mean or angry in my entire life. I can't even think of a time
Right.
where my father's been like that, but he definitely wasn't present, you know, and definitely had misaligned priorities in his life, where a substance took took priority over the well-being of his family and later himself.
Hmm.
And so going through that struggle again, I see it as a gift,
Yeah.
because I was allowed to go through that,
Hmm.
to meet people who have also been there.
Yep.
I have a younger brother who's 3 years younger than I am, and we you know went through some hard times. It was just me and my brother and my mom, and that put me in a position where I had to grow up really fast, you know, to be the new man of the house, because my dad wasn't around. And so my mom would work 4 or 5 jobs to keep a roof over her head. And I remember, being the one who kept the house clean, and like made lunches for my brother to take to school, and those kind
Yeah.
of things. And like, those moments really taught me a lot about what it means to provide people with things that they need to survive, for not for any other reason, but because it's what they need and what they deserve to live.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know
100%.
uh Food, safety, unconditional love, like those things, people deserve those things.
Yeah.
And then later in life, my mom got involved with another individual that turned out to be really rough, and moved to a new city. Like, I grew up in this like little coastal town, and so like, where everyone knows each other at the grocery store kind of thing.
Yeah.
And moved to a city that was like way bigger in relatively to
Yeah.
the town I grew up in. And so that was just like this terrifying experience of like going into something completely unknown, being the new kid at a big school from, like, for lack of a better term, this like, little hillbilly coastal town kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And then also transitioning into a whole new family structure, because my mom got involved with this guy, turned out to be just very abusive, and physically, mentally abusive to my mom. And a lot of that abuse was done in front of my brother and I. And so um, witnessing someone you love being hurt, um, just teaches you a lot.
Yeah.
you know um,
Take as much time as you need. There's no rush. Also, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Again, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for everything that's happened in a weird way.
Yeah, it makes you who you are. Yeah.
So yes, and so it what that taught me is that I can love someone that much, for one, right? That I have the capacity to love and care for someone to the point where I want to do good for them, to protect them, but also to show love to them when love isn't being shown to them by people in their lives who are supposed to love them, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember waking up one day in the middle of the night to my my mom's head getting slammed against the wall, and like literally like posters and picture frames like falling down from my room, you know, off the walls, kind of thing. It was horrible. And I remember like waking up and like hearing just like this chaos and this violence beyond the door to my room. Like I could open the door and I would be right there.
Yeah.
And I was so scared to open that door, because I knew that I couldn't do anything myself. And I remember like picking up like this like little tiny like pocket knife that like my grandpa had given me.
Yeah.
I remember like looking down at it and just being like, that ain't enough, you know, like that. I realized in that moment that there's only so much I can do for someone. And you know what? It would not have been helpful or safe. And like, I've had to come to terms with this. It would have not been for the best for me to have tried to intervene, but I convinced myself that I was weak and I was a coward.
Yeah. You could have done, or I should have done, or
I mean, people literally drive themselves crazy with the what if game, you know?
Yep. Yes.
And so at that moment, for whatever reason, it made sense for me to just like, you know what I need to do? Like I just need to pray. And like, I didn't grow up in church. I didn't grow up being a Christian. Like, I didn't have any of that, but for whatever reason, like that made sense to me as the best option, because I just needed something bigger than this who could take on this situation that was out of my hands, out of my control. And my mind went to, okay, I need to ask God for help. And that was the first time I'd ever prayed. And I remember dropping to my knees and just be like, God, please save my mom, man. Like, that's all I got. And I remember everything getting real quiet, and and the next thing I remember, I opened up the door, and because I heard a knock at my door. I'm like, oh, that's different. You know?
Yeah.
Open the door and there's a police officer there. And so I don't know what exactly happened that night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I know what I did, and I know what happened. And I know that something happened, and I can't explain it, but I kind of don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because what happened was that I've never seen that guy again in my life, and my mom has been safe ever since.
Yeah.
So what else do I need, you know?
Right. That's all that matters. Yeah.
And so that obviously, you know, everything that comes with that whole crazy, gosh, that whole craziness, man, is like,
Mhm.
that has the potential to turn someone in a variety of directions.
Yeah.
Um,
Could go different ways.
you could go, okay, I was a very, very different person.
Yeah.
um, but because of that, my mom recognized, even prior, even after the divorce or whatever, my mom, just being the smart, selfless, loving human being she is,
Yeah.
brought her into counseling, and I have since then been a huge advocate and proponent of getting into therapy and counseling and working out whatever you need to work out with someone who is willing to help you and love you and is equipped and has the tools to do so in a healthy way. Um, um, because I don't, gosh, I don't know if I'd be doing what I'd be doing right now with the mindset that I have in light of those experiences,
Right. Mm-hmm.
to do what I can do today with the confidence and the self-love and the level of camaraderie and empathy, but like in an appropriate place, you
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
Because those things unhinged, you think can do really good, but they can actually do like some really hurtful, harmful things to people.
100%.
And so, you know, just thinking about like all the different emotions that come with an experience like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was allowed to go through those things to now be given an opportunity to share my experience and my story,
Mm-hmm.
my hurt, my journey to heal,
Yeah. Yes.
with others.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't need to know your whole life story to
Right.
tell you that I care about you and I love you, and to just like take that love and that care and that, you know, those things that were shown to me in times when I needed it,
Right.
and just pay it forward and reciprocate it to someone else
Mm-hmm.
who might feel like they're in a hopeless spot, who feel like they're in a place where they can't get out, you know, or they're lost, or they're just stuck behind the door wishing they could do more and beating themselves up over it every single day. That breaks my heart.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I'm not going to sit here. I got years ahead of me, man.
Yeah.
I got breath in my lungs. I woke up today. It's a good day. I want to share that love with people for the rest of my freaking life, man. So why would I ever want to do anything else?
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
what else?
That's
What else do
simple.
you want to do today? You know, like, let's go.
Yeah.
So I want to turn hopeless situations into platforms to launch people into hopeful lives that are full and vibrant and just like free of things holding them back, man.
Yeah.
Like I live to see people just ripped away from the chains of those things, man. It just
Yeah.
gets me jacked. Gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I
What was
wasn't.
your question again? I'm sorry. What?
Well, the question was primarily just what got you, what ties do you have to the conversation? Because you always talk about, you know, I don't have depression, I don't have anxiety, and I think what's really important is that there are so many people that are what we consider to be neuronormative. They don't have, or they don't struggle in that persistent, like everyone deals with anxiety. That's natural. You get anxious before big events.
Yeah,
You
for
go
sure.
through lows in life, but there's so many people that are more normative that feel like, how can I help? How can I support? Like, well, I don't get it. And I think the important thing is you don't have to get it. And I think that was really well extrapolated from, like, everybody has a story. Everybody has gone through something. And I think it's not a matter of like, do I get it? Like I have never I don't have an eating disorder, right? But like if I'm talking to somebody who has one, it doesn't matter. Like we can still go above and beyond and like supersede the disorder to show that affection and love and get like giving hope is, it's such a resource that like we feel we don't have to give in a weird way. Like giving hope is something that people pass off as like, oh, well, it's not like that important, but it's everything. It's literally everything.
Yes.
I don't like your story is so different from like my story in a lot of ways. Like I very much had to grow up quickly because my dad became disabled. So he was present, but he wasn't because he fought for disability for like 6 or 7 years. And in between then he was just always on pain meds out. And so I took care of my little brother, but in things went a very different route of like not really having parents and being a parent to my brother. And so like, and then I went a way of being a destructive person for years until, I mean, you saw like the tail end of it last year. And so I went very much the other way. So many stories can go this hopeless route where people give up on the world and give up on themselves. So I think your story resonates with a lot of people in a really unique way that you have this inner light. So deep breaths, everybody. Get your tissues out. Put the onions away. So you've kind of yeah, exactly. Get the Puffs Plus with lotion. You don't want to like rub your nose raw. You know, it's the higher thinking. I've cried a lot in my life. You guys can tell, right? Just gonna sip my coffee. That's so great.
Come to Dyllon's stream for mental health advice, community, and Kleenex recommendations.
Yeah, which I'm not sponsored for. So you definitely touched on it really, really well. So I'm gonna like forego that particular next question, but I think this next one's really a poignant one because I think a lot of as people when struggling with issues and we live in a very like self-deprecating world now, like social media, it's churning out young people that are comparing themselves to highlight reels and things all the time. Mm-hmm. When it comes to mental health discussion or even more than that, just like I guess discussion in general or differences in general or struggle in general, what's the most important thing that you want to help teach people, or what's the most important thing that like people can teach or hone as a skill? And so I know for me, like I always patience in everything, patience with yourself, patience in how you respond and in the way you listen. But I don't know if there's anything that you find particularly like poignant or like so necessary that you kind of adhere yourself back to at the end of the day that you want to teach out to people.
Well, I'm a big, I'm a big proponent of just encouraging people. That's where I feel like I can always go back to, and this, coming from someone who struggled for a long time with performance-based love.
Right. Same. Still.
And just like, real. But like, I guess I want people ultimately to know that, just because there are circumstances that maybe you had a hand in, or maybe you didn't have a hand in, that you by omission or commission, you are in this place where you are now that you're not a big fan of, you're dealing with something that's difficult or whatever. Like I want people to know that it's not a hopeless situation, that and to just take some time. I guess what it comes down to is just like observation. I guess really, if yours is patience, mine would be observation.
Okay.
Look around you, because you have that. You have what you have access to.
Yeah.
And if that is literally just like the shoes on your feet, then be grateful for that, you know, because that's something. And you know, I tell people all the time when they ask me like, oh, how you doing? You know, I typically say like, I woke up breathing. It can't be a bad day.
Yep, exactly.
Because I woke up today. I have that, you know. And also just like using what you have to do the best in the world.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, you know, like you touched on like the self-deprecation thing. I think there are people here that are locked in the mindset that because I don't have A, B, C, X, Y, Z thing, like I really can't do any good. You know, I can't do something to help myself, let alone help other people. You know, and because again, there has to be a balance there too. Because if you're just pushing everything onto other people, then like you're not reserving anything for yourself, and that's, you know, you're gonna burn out there. You're gonna run out of gas, and there's gonna be emotional implosion there. So, you know, I found myself in moments of feeling like, you know, like just hopelessness, or the inability to communicate well. Like that's something that I struggle with a lot. I constantly second guess or doubt myself in my mind about like, is what I'm even saying like making any freaking sense? Is it even worth the breath that it took to form it, kind of thing?
I get that.
Did I say the right word? Did I, you know, like I pick myself apart a lot. So I found myself being drawn to more creative outlets to communicate, because I didn't have confidence in my words, you know. So I would use pictures. I would use music. You know, I played guitar for years and years and years, and then that transitioned into other instruments, and then drums, and now it's like I seem to have just settled on drums, so I play drums, and so but like art and creativity has always been like my primary personal language, you know. And it's really where, like what I said kind of back at the beginning of our time, I feel like there have been experiences and things that have, you know, that I've been allowed to go through when I was like 3 years old to do what I can do now. And one of those things is drawing and art and creativity, right? My mom bought me a chalkboard when I was like 3 years old, and put it up in my room and gave me some chalk, and she's like, you know, here you go. And I remember like picking it up and like kind of scrawling on the chalkboard and stuff. And she left the room to go find a camera because she wanted a picture of me, like using, you know, oh, little Dan using his new chalkboard kind of thing.
Right.
You know, and when the legend has it that she came back, and I had completely filled up the chalkboard with like little stick figure guys like doing karate, and and like, you know, because I watched Adam West Batman when I was probably way too young,
right?
And remember just like going ham on that, and her just being like, oh, it's gonna be like that, okay. And so that was always something that was fostered in my life, you know.
Yeah.
And so so I encourage people to just foster that, whatever that is in your life. Cultivate that, man. Like build on that, like use that as your vehicle of expression. Okay, if you're feeling worthless, then man, put something down on paper that you feel has worth, and then realize that like you made that.
Yeah.
that's really cool. That's really important. Or like you wrote that song, or you like what it could be literally be like whatever, you know. But observing what you have at your disposal to communicate, to express, and then to use that and to go encourage someone else.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
whole, like my whole thing about my art stream, right, is to encourage creativity, encourage creative encouragement, right?
Yes. Yeah. To have that ripple effect.
And to see that go out into the world, you know. Because one of the things that like helped me just always go back to a feeling of self-worth, and knowing that, you know what, I do have value, I am important, I do have something to offer this world, was that feeling I get when I would look somebody in the eye and tell them, hey, I made this for you.
Yeah.
And handing it to them and telling them that I love them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And that feeling is what motivates just about 99% of everything that I do now, you know.
Yeah.
But it took me taking the time to realize that like I do have something to offer in this world, and taking that and putting confidence, real estate into that.
Yes. Yeah.
And actually doing something with it, you know.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage people to do whatever they can with whatever gift, talent, resource they have available at their disposal to leave a lasting mark on someone's life today.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow when you have the nice equipment or the nice pen, you know, the best
the coolest stuff,
pencil or nicest paint or brush or whatever. It's like, you know, don't hinge your worth on stuff you don't need to be effective. Yeah.
It's so interesting because we see in chat people saying like, what if I don't know? Like Stephanie says, what if I don't know what it is yet? And I think the important thing is so many of us, because it's not about like what you're good at in comparison to other people. I think that's like a misnomer of like, do you enjoy creating? And if it is writing, or whether it's art, or whether it's good, especially it's not whether it's good enough, it's not whether it's good compared to other people. It's about like putting energy and compassion and love into something and being like, this is like a physical manifestation of my heart, and then giving that to someone else. I think that's like the big thing. I think and anxiety says that comes up a lot in streaming. And I think the big thing is stripping away the comparative properties of, is it as good as, or it's not good enough, or this isn't good because of XYZ, instead of saying like, I don't know if people realize what creating is, whether it's like, I mean, it is nice when it's tangible. I love making physical art since I got back into it, and it's so much cooler to see like, oh, this is a thing right now. And for Christmas and holidays, I love just getting on Etsy and recreating some ridiculous craft instead of like I'll buy something, you know, whatever, like a joke gift and some nice things. But like, there's something cool about putting energy and time, because time is the most precious resource. You know, it's gone. Like this second, gone.
You don't get that back.
Exactly. So when you invest into something to give to someone, you're investing your time into that. I think that's so. Yeah, I think when it comes to creating, it's not about whether you're great at it. You can hone a skill, you can get better. I think it's just, do you feel good when you do it? I think that's just to talk about that. But
sure. I mean, do things you enjoy, and then just like level that up, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You just got to go out there, get some skill points, and then you
get that grind, right?
And then your attack power goes up for whatever you're doing. And exactly. Let's RPG the mental health conversation. Let's make that happen. Working on an app right now. I think, and that's something a lot of creators struggle with. And I know I say creators because the more that I live on the internet, the more everyone's basically a creator at some point. But it's strip the side conversation away about your inherent worth compared to someone, and think about your worth as an individual. I want to open it up to Q&A because we had one more question. So we're going to do Q&A. Like, I'm going to open it up. You guys can start asking questions, and I would love to start taking them. I'm going to ask one more question of Dan so that you guys can roll in some questions without any awkward silence. Cool. But the last question, and you kind of touched on this a little bit, but I want to dive back onto it just a little bit. You said earlier, it's just like your situation isn't hopeless. You should observe and be grateful for what you do have. So that might touch on this a little bit, but what advice do you have for anyone who is struggling with suicide, eating disorder, depression? I know so many younger people have really tough family lives. They can't get access to healthcare, or there's a lot of, it's Pride Month. There's a lot of LGBT individuals who are just stifled or suffocated with parents who aren't tolerant of who they are. Things of that nature.
Yeah.
It's a very broad spectrum of individual, but what advice do you have, I guess? And it might be the same advice. It might be the same advice as before. But I wanted to bring it back around to that.
Yeah. Yeah. So regardless of your situation, regardless of what you have going on, the way you're feeling, I would challenge people, one, to think back to a time where you didn't feel that way,
Right.
Was there a time in your past that you truly did feel like unashamedly yourself, and you felt really, really good and confident and like at peace with who you are, right? And when you do that, when you find that moment, take time to describe and like put it down on paper or on a notepad, like whatever you need to do, like describe that, and then start taking some notes of why that moment in particular, the one that jumps to your mind as soon as I say think of the last time you were happy, why is that? Because those things that are there are I'm going to say 99% of the time, those feelings that you're feeling right there are very, very different than what you're feeling currently, right?
Mm-hmm.
That just logically means that it is possible for you to think and feel differently than what your current situation and feelings are describing about you right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yep.
If you were not at one point feeling depressed, suicidal, horrible about the way you look, questioning your existence, questioning your purpose or whatever, then that means that all you have to do, and I realize this is like a crazy generalization, right?
Sure, it kind of has to be, but
it has to be, right? Just because of the nature of the conversation. But that means that you can change the way you think and feel about your current situation, right? The possibility speaks into hope, because if there is possibility, there is hope, right? So you're not a lost cause,
right?
You're not bound to this moment, right? It is a season. It is a time frame. I don't know how long that season is going to last, but they call them seasons because they have beginnings and because they have endings, right? Yep. And it might not make sense why you're going through this. I don't have all the answers. I mean, I'm not right. Like, I'm not a counselor. I'm not a therapist. Like, I'm not going to claim to be any of those things because that's super dangerous. But I've seen people more than one occasion go through some unbelievable hardship and struggle, and because there is hope, that fuels perseverance. That fuels creativity to adjust and to transform, to change, to learn, to grow into something that is vastly different than your present moment and circumstance.
Right.
And to be given the opportunity to hang out with other people who also want that or have been through that is so powerful.
Yeah.
It's so strong. And that's why I always come back to community, come back to people when everything in your heart, in your mind is screaming for you to just be alone. Don't.
Yep. Yeah.
And I believe that we have so many opportunities to reach out, to connect in our day and age right now, and the level of connection we have to one another is so vast.
Yes. Yeah.
You literally have no excuse.
Right. Yeah.
You literally have no excuse. That is why I believe that the platform that we have right now on Twitch, you can go on Twitch and create like whatever crazy ass name you want and start building community with someone in real time. That's incredible. That's amazing. You can also go to forum.heartsupport.com and post anonymously on the support wall and share there, and then be met with unconditional love and a community that loves you and wants to go through life with you and wants to give you love and respect regardless of what your sexual orientation is, how you identify as a gender, if you want to believe that or not, what you believe in a god or not, how rich or poor you are, what color skin you have. Those are conditions.
Yep.
Okay. Those don't fly with me.
Not with unconditional
if it's
love.
The way of being loved, of you thinking you can be loved, no, I don't do that. You know, I go around, I go over, or I knock them down.
Yep.
Okay. Those walls don't stand a chance against love.
Right.
Because real unconditional love, I believe, is the root of all healing. And I know that's a big statement. I'm just speaking from personal experience.
I think it's only big because it's so hard to grasp, but that doesn't make it like unfathomable, right? Like I think everyone.
But if there's hope, right? If there's hope, then there is possibility. And so,
and vice versa. Yeah.
Let's do this together. Quit thinking you have to do this by yourself.
Yeah. And I always, I take this like really weird analytical standpoint with that last part. And I'm like, there are millions of people with depression. You're not the only one. Like there's somebody who gets it, right? Like reach out,
right?
or, you know, there's just no way you're by yourself. It's not actually possible, but, and that always like stands out to me. Have you seen Into the Spider-Verse? Did you watch that movie?
No, and I'm so ashamed.
I can't reference it. You need to, and I'm not texting you until you do. So like, I don't know if if I have to hold our friendship hostage, it's fine. No,
that's cool.
I won't do
that's
that.
That's cool.
But there's a moment that happens. Obviously, Spider-Verse has multiple spider people in it, and something happens, and the main character is just like, man, like nobody can understand, and everyone else is like, I think we're the only ones that can understand. And I think there's like a really profound moment of like when heroes, like big people, are like, nobody can get it, and you know, it's like, well, there's always somebody that can get it, right? There's always somebody. And I always tell this to people in our community because I want to go back to that isolation tendency to be inside of ourselves and just retreat or just run. It's not really running away, right? But it's that tendency to just push everyone away or build up a wall, whatever it may be. And I always tell people, like, don't isolate yourself, even if you don't know what to say. Just being like, hey, like that's all I need. Like, let's run with that.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Yeah. It's because when we isolate, that's when I think I would say become the most self-destructive. We cycle on the what ifs that we touched on of just, I could have, should have, would have, or if only things were, and instead of really fixating on the hope that we should have. And yeah, if there's possibility, there's hope. And I like the idea that if thinking of a time where you have been happy, no matter how long ago it was, is a stark reminder that you can and will be happy again. You just have to persevere to that next point, to that next pit stop on the road, right?
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna take a few questions. We have 2 questions at least for now. If you guys have questions for Dan or myself, either or,
Let's go.
let's see. So Sarah says, "What advice can you give me to help me not feel like I'm responsible for things that are happening, have happened, and or will happen? I feel like I need to take care of my grandfather with him having dementia. I feel like I need to project my brother who is a high functioning who has high functioning autism. It's a lot to handle, and I don't know how to wrap my head around it all after a year." I don't know, Dan, if you want to. There's a lot of like what we've already said is very applicable, but I have no qualms with repeating some of that and then adding to it.
Well, first off, I think you feeling responsible just speaks to your heart and what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
Like you feel responsible because you care about those things, and that's really awesome that you care about those things. You care about your family, you care about your people who might not have a voice or a way to fend for themselves if it's not for other people who see that need and then fulfill it. That's incredible level of care and empathy and altruism, and what you're doing is really good.
Yeah.
Feeling like that is the thing that makes you important in this world is not healthy.
Yeah.
And when anything involves people, it's instantly messy. It instantly, triples, doubles in layers of feelings and emotions, and it compounds.
Yeah.
It's more potent.
Yes.
And then family, that aspect on it, it's like that's even another level, right? So like it's something that I honestly feel like those responsibilities that you feel right now, they are really good, but they don't necessarily have to be done by you, because you deserve a break and you deserve time for yourself, and you deserve time to recharge and replenish. And that means that necessitates communication and conversation with other members of your family. And I know just from our discussions that you have a lot going on in your home. You have a lot going on in your house. It's a very busy house. And it might just be a season right now, where things are busy. But yeah, asking for help doesn't make you weak or irresponsible. It makes you a good manager of your time and emotional resources.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's definitely like feeling responsible is it's a good emotion, as long as it goes back to like overextending or pouring from an empty cup. It's okay to feel responsible until you are so responsible that you drain yourself of any way to invest back into you.
Right.
So, I very much know your what's going on in your house as well, and it's difficult, and I know there's a lot going on. But to think and to assume that you have sole responsibility that's too much for a person to carry in those particular consequences. A family is a family, right? It's not just a person. It's not, you're not the sole owner of a daycare or anything, right? It's a family, and everybody's supposed to lift each other up in their own ways. And so how do you feel like you're not? I think it's a change of perspective a little bit. It's okay to be responsible, but if you run yourself so low on energy that you're not doing good for yourself, you're not doing well by them either. You're not. Like, you can't. It's, it's the same as like, I'll stay up till 6 a.m. cramming for this test. You're still probably going to bomb that test because you're not taking care of yourself and your brain isn't right. So you have to definitely be able to take time for yourself. I think being responsible is good. It means you're a person who cares for others, but don't care so much that you don't care for yourself. Because then that does nobody any good at all. And that takes practice. That is a practice skill. You're going to feel the urge, or you're going to feel a little bit of guilt because you are tired or whatever, but reminding yourself that you're not the only one and that you do have to take care of you that's the grounding. If you need to put that on a sticky note, if you need to put that in your phone, like have something tangible to remind you, because you're going to have to build that skill and you practice that thought pattern to break down an old thought pattern. You have that sort of belief perseverance that it's got to be you, and that means that you're going to neglect information to the contrary, and so it's going to be hard to break that down, but you could do it. I've seen you do that. So let's see here. Ashney has a pretty good one. I think this one will be a good uplifting one. Ashney says, what's your favorite or most impactful heart support story? I know mine. Mine is still the paper flower on my shelf over there from the gala. I love that one. Anyway. Well, what about you, Dan? If you have one, I guess there's so many, right?
One that I keep going back to, that's pretty amazing. There's someone in our community that has had a lot of trauma and medical ailments. So a lot of external things have happened to this person that develops strong internal interpretations of themselves because of those things, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of abuse and hurt and anyway, a lot of that resulted in this person who was very involved in our community going into a coma, and being put on life support. I mean, it's pretty did not look good, and HeartSupport is a faith-based organization, and we pray for people. It's just part of our culture, and that's just to be said as a statement, not asking anyone to believe something that they don't right now. It's just
not a pushed belief.
Being transparent. And we prayed for that person, and the next day they woke up out of their coma.
It's strong.
And again, that makes me think back to like my story and what I shared with you guys. And just like
that's sort of miraculous.
I don't have a way to explain it, and other than it happened, and there was significant change that happened in that person's life, and things weren't instantaneously better. They aren't crazy healthy and just like walking around and like,
but it
I'm
starts.
gonna announce my candidacy to be a president next. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like that, but it's like, again, change can happen when there is hope, and like how you find that is your journey. How you get there is how you get there. But just that story to me, and that experience, and then hearing the team's reaction to that was something that I go back to, just in my mind and my heart in a lot of moments, and just believe like, what, if something that amazing can happen, certainly there is hope for others as well.
And like, full disclosure on my end, like I'm not a religious person. Like, I had that intersection, and I can't commit to it. But even when discussion of prayer comes up, it's at minimum just immense positive energy towards a situation. So for anybody, like, I know that as I used to be when I was much younger, I used to kind of roll my eyes at the conversation, but now I'm very much like, I'm a different person, thank God. But I very much now, like, whatever I believe is pretty irrelevant. I still very much think that at minimum positive energy has a lot of potential and change. So anybody out there who hears that story and can't translate it to your life, maybe that's a good way to be able to do. So
Sure.
because that means, I don't know, it's yeah, that's just powerful. That's just what it is. Yeah, just that miraculous comeuppance of when enough people believe something, right? When enough people push that energy your way. Ward off demons. So he says, question. I find that people with anxiety or depression seem to gravitate towards each other and myself. I still feel guilty when I don't have the energy to help friends in need. They're understanding what I need to kind of deal with my own stuff, but my own guilt still gets to me sometimes. Advice. This goes back to exactly what it is with Sarah. I think it's, you can't be there. Like, if somebody's like, sir, can I have some water? And you're like, I'm sorry, there's none left because I didn't take time to refill my water bottle. Sorry. Right. Like, you cannot be. And we see it in my content, right? Like, if I get on stream and I'm lethargic, I was up till 4 a.m. struggling or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You know, and I come on stream, you guys are like, wow, like, and I'm like, no, I gotta be here. I gotta be here to help people. You guys would yell from the rooftops at me. Somebody would fly to Houston to put me back in bed. Like, it would not be allowed. But for some reason, we can't take that and apply that to ourselves. You have to be willing, like, if you truly want to help people, take breaks. And you can be respectful. And, you know, be like, and it seems like you're great at that, and tell people, hey, I need time to recharge, and maybe we could talk tomorrow, and that's okay. But I think taking an external look at, like, how would you, if somebody else were like, hey man, I can't talk today, like, I need to get through this funk, I'm sure you would give them that kindness. So give yourself that kindness. Look at that external perspective, the advice you would give a friend sort of mentality.
Yes.
It's something I have to practice. I still practice. You'll probably have to practice till the day you die. And that's okay, because, you know, you don't just brush your teeth when you have a cavity. You brush your teeth every day, right? You got to keep up on that stuff. So I don't know.
It's almost like if you took, you know, if you took how you're feeling right now, right? And so ward off demons. If you're just struggling and feeling overburdened with the guilt of not being, like, a quote good enough friend for the people that are trusting you with their thoughts and feelings, which just again speaks to the amazing friend you are, because people are trusting you with their heart. Like, that's amazing, by the way. You're a good friend. Yeah. You know, if you take those feelings you're feeling there and write them down, I feel this, and this, but then, like, put someone else's name attached to that.
Yeah. Yes.
And then be like, and then think, like, if this was just like a text message that was just sent to me from one of my friends, like, how would I respond? You know, so respond to yourself almost from a step back from the experience, you know? And again, maybe some anonymity would be healthy. Or maybe just, you know what, maybe just sitting down with your friends and saying, like, boundary time.
Yeah. If you see do not disturb on Discord, you know,
you may contact me this day between the hours of this hour and this hour.
Set up
like,
meetings,
sometimes, and I'm not saying all the time, and I don't know your friends like you know them or whatever, but, like, it's okay to say that, like, listen, from this time to this time, like, that's me time. You know, that's time that I need to rest. I need to care for myself. I'm going to take a long shower because I feel better afterwards. Right. So it also comes with identifying and knowing and how to execute what is good for you. So there's exploration and thought there. I mean, it's so cool to, and I know this a lot, and I know Dylan does too, but, like, a lot of people come to people they trust and rely on and feel safe around.
Is good.
You are that person for the others, you know, for your friends here. That's really, really cool. If you want to continue being a good resource for them, you need to care for yourself.
Yep. Yeah. If you can't do it for you, do it for them. Take that time. Yeah. And hopefully eventually you'll learn to do it for you. But
yes.
Okay. I think how much time do you have? Are you good for like 10
I should probably wrap up here in the next maybe 5 minutes or so.
5 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Mantelbeard, I would love if you could, I would love,
hey, friend.
yeah, I would love to answer that. We have to wrap up. I want to get to echoes because I think it's really poignant regarding the mental health conversation, but I definitely want Dan to be able to answer that for you. So I don't know, Dan, is that okay if he DMs you later? Okay. I wanted to be sure that was clear. Of course. So Echo says this, and this will be the last one we're going to be able to take, but she says,
all right.
How did you learn to give advice? I have every good intention and I am an empath. I listen to every story. Where I lack is articulating safe and positive understanding advice. How do I learn to do that better without practicing by giving not so great advice? And I want to take this for a second. I'll be brief because Dan's got to go soon. But man, I have learned to give advice by not giving advice. And I need to do that better. But for me, giving advice is very much like, let me ask you questions that circle you back to the answer you need to find on your time. So, for me, it's asking questions helps me to understand their thought process, their perspectives, and what they're going through, where their head is at. But it's not about me telling them or being like, you should do this, or you need to do this. And I still struggle with this a lot. For me, it's very much about helping them to find that answer within themselves. My significant other, when I was having a bad anxiety attack, really beating myself up, deprecating, said, hey, what would you say to a viewer who is going through the same thing? And that question and processes of questions led me to a place where I was able to come back off of the ledge or whatever I was going through. I think that's a hone skill that I will always be honing, because the immediate need to be like, here's advice. I know this. Like, it's almost like knowing the question or the answer to the question, but there's no like answer. I think it's helping people to figure themselves out. It's teaching a man to fish instead of fishing for them. It's teaching them kind of how to think off of that ledge instead of giving them just blatant advice is what I need to do and try to do. I don't know about you, Dan, though. So
that's awesome. I completely agree. Having good intention, being able to feel where a person is at, it is so good. What you don't want to do, I know this, what you don't want to do is just speak because it's expected of you.
Yes. Yeah.
That's
fair. That's good.
And like, I think what makes good advice good is that when you feel understood by someone.
Yeah.
When you feel like, oh man, you really get it. Like, that's really cool. Like, I really appreciate the connection we have there. Mm-hmm. You don't necessarily have to give advice as much as you have to. Well, I'm just going to speak from me. Okay. I don't necessarily give great advice. What I try to do my best is to meet people where they're at and love them.
Yeah. That's
so I don't necessarily have to tell you advice. I can tell you thoughts. Mm-hmm. I can tell you, I can share experiences. You know what I mean? I can share stories. I think there's some communication and some community that can be formed between two people in sharing those things. And I think just out of that, a person knows you and starts to learn about you and therefore trusts you in figuring that stuff out. Maybe weeks from now. It might not be right now. Yeah. You might not have the answer right now. And just realizing that, okay, I don't have to give the immediate perfect answer to their question as much as I just need to listen right now. Yeah. And maybe that's what they need. Maybe it's not even so much about talking as much as just you putting yourself in their shoes and what would you appreciate in that moment. Yeah. I think loving people where they're at, and not feeling like you have to give the right answer, but just this also falls into another big part of what HeartSupport does, is like being able to identify lies from truth.
Yep.
So breaking that down, this person's struggle, this person's issue or emotional conflict or whatever they have going on, right? What is the core lie that is being believed about themselves, that is then being interpreted as all these and expressed as all these emotions and
the
junk,
arrow down method,
right?
Yeah.
How can you kind of dilute that down to the purest thing that is just like, you believe this about yourself and that's not right.
Yeah, it's very much for me, and the way I interpret that is what I try to do, and what I'm going to be always trying to do is, I think when somebody is really stuck inside themselves, very much meet them halfway with that understanding, with that love. Because I think when I'm asking questions of like, so why do you feel that way? Or like, what do you think that's healthy? When did this started? Like, like really ask you to unravel yourself. I think what it is just, I want to go to your path and walk that path with you. Like, you shouldn't have to explore that alone, because that's definitely scary. But yeah, 100%. And exploring, like, the arrow down method in psychology is very much like, oh, I'm bad at everything. Okay, well, why do you think that? Because you lost at a video game. Okay, but why do you think that? Well, because I'm not, I'm not successful in any other part of my life. And so there's like this like core belief, and then it like extrapolates into this big, huge thing. And so like helping to find that's like super important. But I definitely, that was Casey. That was definitely Casey, by the way. Just anyone listening to the podcast, Casey is streaming right now, and it's just little background flavor. It's fine.
This is our world, guys.
Yeah. That's Casey is doing a broadcast where he makes metal music.
Twitch.tv/Casey Screams Back.
Yeah, there it is. Ooh, there it is. That'll be all for questions. If you guys have questions, I'm free all day. I'm just video editing. I'm writing my book. Plug, and doing a bunch of other stuff. I'll be free. HeartSupport, go to their forum if you guys want to just post and get stuff real off your chest, real anonymous. You don't even have to have your same username as Twitch. I don't have to know who you are. Dan doesn't have to know who you are. Doesn't matter. That being said, I want to give a second to, can we get a shout out for Dan for being on the show and really just splaying his heart wide open in a way that he didn't have to, but he volunteered to do it, and it means a lot. I know we ran over, but it's a really insightful, educational, enriching podcast. So I hope that you have a wonderful day. I hope the kiddo is doing well. I hope the wife's doing well. Big love to you, my friend. Can we get thank yous for Dan in chat? If you guys liked what you heard, head on over to patreon.com/DyllonKG. This episode will be up on Patreon. Anyone at the $2 tier, this will be up early for the duration of the weekend, all the way till Monday when it goes live, for free anywhere. You guys can get this all for free. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate that. Go follow Dan, and be patient with yourself. Be kind with yourself. Treat yourself like you would a friend. See you guys on the next episode.